Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you doing? Welcome to the Breakfast Show. Welcome to the end of an era. I don't have a script for this bit, but this is the last time the show will look, well, this bit will stay the same. You know, my head will not be changing. Well, not anytime soon anyway. But everything else about the show is changing. We're keeping the morning monologue. The introduction will be different. The question of the day will stay the same. Our intro, which I've just played, that's changing. Our news section intro, that's changing. Our actual intro is changing. We're bringing in a new competition called A Minute to Win It. So there's going to be lots of prizes going forward. We'll be keeping that going up, hopefully on a daily basis. It's going to cost me an absolute bloody fortune in postage to send out all the prizes, but I think it's worth it. So yeah, lots of changes to come. That will be happening on Monday. Also happening on Monday, I've written an article, another one that's going to make me immensely popular, and the timing couldn't be worse. I've taken a look at the winners of some recent demolition industry awards, and I have some question marks. That'll be Monday. Yeah, you'll see it. You'll see it. I've actually put it behind a paywall. Mainly to stop some people seeing it, because I think it's going to upset a few people. But there we are. Dan says, "Are we all set for Monday?" Not yet. No, in actual fact, I was looking at the various bits and pieces last night. The one bit that we don't have is the pre-show intro. It's almost done. It's not quite done, but that'll be done probably later today, I would imagine. The prizes are all set. What I am going to do over the weekend is divvy them up into individual boxes and that kind of thing, so they'll be standing by. So we're going to do, a couple of JCB giveaways, a Caterpillar giveaway, a big steel wrist giveaway, a Liebherr giveaway. There's loads and loads going on Monday, and then whatever's left over, that will fuel our Minute to Win It competition going forward. Gary says, "Can't believe we're on show 999. Wow, a long way from the very first episode where this very nervous guy was sitting with funny glasses on. Never missed a show. Keep up the fantastic work." Thank you very much indeed, Gary. It has been through some iterations. It all began with me wearing those. Mainly for the glare, the glare off the screen, but also because I thought they made me look a bit Bono-ish. Why anyone wants to look like Bono, frankly, is an entire mystery. But then we switched over to those. I had those for a while, reflective, so you couldn't see my eyes moving. And then I just thought, moving eyes is not really the end of the world, is it? So I just went with the glasses that I frankly need to see the script these days. Anyone that's followed the show for any length of time will know I've had these shows for about 6 months now. Used to blow up my script to about a 16-point type, so that I could read it. But it was getting problematic. I've now got the glasses. If I took my glasses off now, I'm still at 16 point. It's a blur. I haven't got a bloody clue what I'm looking at. So my eyes have deteriorated somewhat. Garvin, mostly Diggers, just joined us over on Instagram. Let's have a look. Ken Hatch says, "I remember show number 1." Yeah, Ken was among those very small number of people that were actually here. On the opening day. It was a weird thing, and as I say, you'll be able to read about this because I've written about it. It was a weird one. It was a weird one. Won't bore you with the backstory because most of you know it anyway. But literally went live and could quite easily have been speaking to myself. And at one point we peaked, I think, at 11 viewers. We weren't broadcasting multi-platform at the time. I think we were basically broadcasting primarily to Facebook, but we then extended to include Twitter for a while, although lost faith in Twitter once Elon Musk bought it. But then we then extended it to Instagram, to LinkedIn, and to YouTube. So that our platform has grown, and obviously the audience has grown as well. And the Black Curtain episodes, yeah, there was such a mess behind me. I mean, that's quite a mess now. I may have to tidy that up at some point, but there was quite a mess behind me. So my solution to that, there's like a dado row in this room, which I know you can't see, but there's a dado row in this room. So I just basically propped a lump of timber up there and dropped a black curtain over the top of it. Made it look a bit funereal, I would have to say. And I decided I try to light it up. If you have a look you see that up there, there's a faint tint of purple up there. There you are, faint tint of purple. So there's a purple light there. I actually had that on the floor behind me, shining up the curtain, which made it look even more like Dracula's castle. Not a good look. Dan saying, show 999 was some going and great content over the years. Fantastic work by you and Fred. Thank you very much indeed for that, Dan. Yeah, Fred is working away in the background to make the new show look as good as we possibly can. As I say, I know Andy Thornton yesterday said, am I going to change the background? Not immediately. I need to clear the path first. But yeah, there may be some changes on that as well. And funnily enough, a couple of people have picked up on this. Chris Ford says, morning, everyone. 999 fire brigade time. Thank God it's Friday, he says. Go right the way back to 8:58. Andy Dalvell says, morning, morning, morning. 999, the emergency services show. Let's go, he says. Yeah, 999. I hadn't even thought of that. Gary said, yes, it was Facebook that popped up saying something you may be interested in. I just had to tune in. Loved every episode. Thank you. Listen, guys, I don't want to get all slushy. I'll be doing that on Monday, but thank you. This wouldn't really work if it was just me. And I mean, Gary is a prime example. Obviously, that sign there, that's from Gary. See that sign there? That's from Gary. You know the question of the day? It isn't today, actually, but the question of the day, normally from Gary. All of these bits and pieces, I was telling somebody a little while ago, so much of what this show is and so much of what this show looks like is not actually down to me or to Fred. Fred's knocked off the rough edges, but an awful lot of it has been sort of inspired by people elsewhere and so on. So, yeah, it's been shaped by you, and I'm grateful for it. Dan says, that's what I said yesterday. Call the police. Ken says, Big Apple update on Monday as well. Oh, God. Oh, God, that doesn't bode well, does it? Yeah, Big Apple update, so nobody will be able to tune into the 1000th show. Andy Darwell says, 999 was my phone number for 6 years when I was retained firefighter in Hertfordshire, fire and rescue. You need Andy? 999. Is Andy in? Yeah. Peter McKenna says, morning all, and well done, Gary. Mick Norton's here as well. Morning, Mick. Good of you to join us. Hope you're fit and well. More specifically, hope the good Mrs. Norton is doing okay. Loads to get through as always. Show. So in this current format, for the final time, I'm going to roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. It is Friday, the 12th of September. Welcome to the Breakfast Show, show number 999, the last of its kind. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming, the Brad Pitt of broadcasting, the Tom Cruise of talking, and the Terry Wogan of the Digger world. I may stick with one or two of those. We'll see. In today's show, a sneak peek at the latest from Manitous. JCB shows off its Intellisense. If you're feeling stumped, talk to Takeuchi Kobelco on the waterfront. We're back down under again as well. Plus, in my morning monologue today, choose your tribe. Choose your tribe. Yeah. We'll be coming to that in just a moment. Before we get to all of that, I am going to very quickly remind you of our question of the day, which looks like this. Yeah, question of the day today relates to my morning monologue, actually. So the question is this. If you can only own or operate one digger brand for the rest of your life, money's no object, which brand are you choosing? Now, I've given this probably more thought than it really deserves, and my takeaway is this. I think Cat would be a great choice on the basis they've got the biggest, broadest portfolio. As somebody, who was it? Chris Ford has actually said resale value, Caterpillar, it's cash money, basically, isn't it? And they'd be able to satisfy just about any construction or demolition related task. So Caterpillar would be an optimum choice. That being said, if I knew I was only going to be digging or dozing or hauling, Liebherr or Volvo? What about you, though? What about you? What would you say? What would you say? Andy Thornton's going for Spear and Jackson. Does Spear and Jackson still exist? Do they still exist? Ken Hatcher is going for Cat or JCB. Chris Ford says Cat for the build quality and the resale value. Good call. Good call. Dan Cullen saying this show, the last and the first of its kind. Yeah, but do you know it's something that strikes me as slightly odd. And I do remember joking with somebody years ago that only a certifiable lunatic would actually commit to doing this show daily. But I'm really surprised that nobody else has followed suit. I know the Worthing Advertiser dabbled with it for a couple of weeks and was terrible. But you'd have thought somebody else, maybe stateside, but bearing in mind how on the internet they really are, you'd have thought somebody in America would have gone, yeah, that Anthony fella's onto something. Show me such a twat. Let's do it better. You'd have thought somebody would have done that by now. Nobody's done it. Lack of commitment. Gary says, all credit to yourself and Fred for all the hard work you put into this amazing platform. Generally say I've met such a bunch of fantastic people. Yeah, therein lies the highlight, I would say. And as I say, I'm not going to be slushy, but 1,000 shows, or it will be 1,000 shows come Monday. Wouldn't have gone that long had I been talking to myself. A lot of what we do on this show is, as I say, is driven by, powered by, directed by, navigated by you guys. I just sit here and press buttons and try to sound intelligent. And this is me trying to sound intelligent. Andy Dalvell says it would have been Volvo up until Cat updated their cabs. Now I think it would be Cat. I especially love the small 8-ton machine where you can track and use the blade with the joysticks. Now, interesting you should say that, and I'm not here to advocate for anyone in particular, but you're saying that Caterpillar have updated their cabs. You have seen the new Volvo cabs, have you? Pretty good. Ken is going for Cat or JCB. Yeah, good shout. Gary Muirhead. The only machine I'd love to operate is a vending machine. Yeah, vending machine. They vary around the world, don't they? I'm sure I showed it to you when I was in Vegas. There is a pizza vending machine. You can get yourself a piece of freshly baked pizza out of a vending machine. Wish I'd done it just to see if it was as bad as my brain says it was. Dan's going for Liebherr or Develop. Komatsu, Kobelco. That's my preferences. Yep. He also says Cat underpowered now. Underpowered. Good Lord. Mick Norton says a resurrected Ackerman excavator with all the ergonomic comforts of 2025, or mix of tradition and modern. Yes, absolutely fantastic. Andy Darwell says, Dan, when I was working for Mick George, I was on a Cat 352 and my mate was on a Volvo 480. He couldn't keep up with me loading 40-ton trucks. Raw power in that machine, he says. I've only had a very quick play on the 352 and the 340. Didn't feel underpowered to me. I'm not a judge. I'm not a judge because I don't do it often enough, but it certainly wasn't lacking much as far as I was concerned. I haven't been in the new Volvo cab yet. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Gary says, we've got a pizza vending machine in Glasgow. Does it deep fry the pizza, though? There's the important question of the day. Does it deep fry your pizza for you? Should we move on? I think we probably should. I'm going to show you the very latest Manitous. They're actually for agricultural use, but the way the Manitou normally work is here's the agricultural version, which generally just precedes the construction version. I'll show you those in just a minute. Yeah, really, really quick snapshot, but I must admit, this is some fantastic use of AI-generated content. This is Manitou's new agricultural telehandlers on the track. How awesome would it be if you could wheel spin a telehandler or drift one? Oh, count me in. Now, going back to the subject of pizza, our resident specialist, Mr. Hatcher says Friday night is pizza night. Ken, we know that. I have a question for you though, Ken. I don't know where you get your pizzas. They always look very, very tasty. But would you accept a vending machine pizza for your Friday night delicacy? Dan says the 210 Komatsu I'm on is outdoing the 330 cat. It's madness, to be honest. Wow. Could it be the driver, Dan? You're a good operator, mate, says Andy Dover. Well, don't get him started, for goodness sake. His head's big enough. I can barely get the hats on him these days. Could be the operator, though. We've already mentioned JCB once today. We're going to be mentioning them again in just a moment. Funnily enough, we've also mentioned Caterpillar, and we're mentioning them right now. You ever get that feeling that maybe you're not the smartest person in the room? I get that fairly regularly. Not that I'm in any competition, but I mean, I'm next Friday. I think it's next Friday. I'm at the Institute of Demolition Engineers autumn seminar in London, and I definitely will not be the smartest person in the room on that day. But just hold that thought. Imagine if you're not even the smartest person in your machine. JCB, talk to us.
Hello, my name is Charlie Catallo and I am the Product Manager for Construction Load-All here at JCB. Today I'm going to talk to you about one of JCB's latest innovations, JCB Intellisense. JCB Intellisense is a 270-degree AI camera solution with a front-facing camera. The first camera can be seen above the cabin, covering the entrance to the machine. The second camera is located at the back of the machine, covering the rear, which also acts as a standard reversing camera. The third camera is located on the right-hand side mirror arm, covering the engine side of the machine. This provides 270 degrees of AI coverage. The fourth and final camera is a non-AI camera and is located behind the screen in the cabin. It is forward-facing and captures what the operator sees, very similar to a dash cam. The processing unit lives behind the rear door on the machine for ease of access. The unit is also tamper-proof to ensure no unauthorised personnel can gain access. JCB Intellisense is an industry-first factory-fit solution and therefore covered under the machine's standard warranty. The system provides visual and audible alerts for both the operator and the pedestrian in proximity with the machine. The system is set with a 0 to 2 metres inner zone and a 2 to 5 metres outer zone. Internally, when a person approaches the machine, the operator will hear an in-cab chime. Externally, if the machine is not in a safe state with the handbrake up, the machine will produce an external sound linked to the reverse alarm or the white noise alarm. Below the screen, there are 3 switches related to Intellisense. The first is a camera button that allows the operator to switch between different camera views to suit their needs. The second switch is the operator alert button, which is to be used in emergencies when the operator wants to manually send a 10-second video clip to LiveLink that can be viewed by the site manager. The third switch is the OK to approach light. This button will only work when the machine is in a safe state with the handbrake up and will need to be held down. When the switch is pressed, the light will show green, and when released, the light will disable. Whenever an event occurs, this is captured and sent through a processing unit, which is then communicated to our LiveLink system, allowing all the data to be accessed via one single source. This gives site managers the opportunity to re-watch footage. All footage captured is categorised into critical, major and minor, depending on the severity of the event. This means that site managers don't have to spend hours looking through data. The footage is available to be accessed on LiveLink up to 7 days. If necessary, it can then be saved on the cloud for up to 7 years. The JCB Intellisense system has been tested and approved to JCB standards and is in line with GDPR and data protection standards. We know handling customers' data is a very sensitive subject, and therefore JCB gives customers peace of mind that their data is held securely and is encrypted. JCB Intellisense is the future of site safety and is available to order now.
Now that, to my mind, is how AI is supposed to work. Let AI take care of something that allows the operator to do something else. I'm a fan, I have to say. Let's have a look. Gary Muirhead is on the 352. He says it's some beast. That would be my experience as well. Chris Field says, I once put 3 shovels against a wall and asked the gopher to take his pick. He replied, there were only shovels and no pick. Yeah, there are some smart ones out there. Mark Whiting, and I have to say, Mark, I'm largely with you. Question of the day: if you could only operate one type of machine or one brand of machine for the rest of your career, what would you do? What would you choose, rather? He says Volvo. I'd be kind of with you on that. A couple of people have said this. Chris Ford says, just remember, cameras work both ways. They do. They do. Andy Darvell says, Big Brother is always watching both directions as well. Yes, it would be nice to be able to point out that this ground worker keeps walking in front of the machine. He's a danger to me and to himself. Could also work the other way, though. Take care, people. Take care. That's taking it to the next level, says Dan. I agree. Peter McKenna has arrived and says, bloody phone hasn't stopped. Well, now you are an internet celebrity and a musical maestro. And let's forget, I have a button that reinforces that. There we are. Peter says, I'm a prick and I'm funded by all major associations. Hey, if it pays the bills, not a problem at all. Frank at Diacon Demo, all the way from Australia, just joined us over on Instagram. Good evening, Frank, I think. Good evening. It's a long way away. I'm guessing it's probably evening, but good day to you, Frank. Good of you to join us. We're going to be heading to his part of the world in just a moment after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Let's have a look. Andy Darvell says, when I was on the 352, it could weigh the bucket load. So, of course, I had a competition with the machine to see how much I could lift. 16.8 tons of wet clay was my heaviest bucket, but she did struggle. It was 16.8 tons. And I know there's a hefty old counterweight on a 352, and it's got a lot of oomph under the bonnet, but that's quite a lot for a single bucket load. Wet clay is terrible stuff, isn't it? Yeah. Terrible stuff. Anyway, yes, I said we were going down to Australia, and we are. Dan, I did tell you there was more Australian Kobelco to come. I wasn't lying.
Daniel Cullen, ETS Earthworks, and we've been working in Perth for the last 17 years doing earthworks, and February 2012 we started our business, and we do a lot of work with Densford Civil subdivision work and deep sewer. End of 2024 we thought about getting a new machine, and we went down the 14 tonner range. Lift Right come with the perfect deal for us that we wanted, with the GPS system, the tilt hitch, the buckets and the machine itself. With the Aptella GPS system, we went down that path for the fact that we do quite a lot of detailed earthworks with contractors that we work with. a lot of batter work, a lot of deep sewer, service trenching, and we've got the automated system, so cuts the grade for you, so saves that safety aspect of not having labourers in the trench while we're working. Inside the cab, we've got a huge screen in there with the cameras, 360 cameras on it. The Takeuchi on it works unbelievably well, and having the GPS system on it, it just makes the jobs and the machine that much better than what it already is. The machine's comfortable, enough power to do whatever we need to do with it, whether it's rock or sand. Well, we've been cutting roads, but they've got inverted roads in the laneway, so the grader couldn't fit in there, so we had the 14 tonne in there boxing it out. And we've got a lot of earthworks with the batter works coming up, needing to use it for that. Yeah, we bought this machine so we can dry hire it out. It's basic inside, but quite technical. The TopCon system we've got, it's quite easy to understand. I've never used the GPS before. And hopping into this machine, Aptella come down and showed me for about half an hour and pretty much nailed it now. So it's going to be quite easy for new operators to hop into it and understand how to use it.
Our relationship with Daniel started back in November of last year. So we partnered up with Aptella and spec'd up a TopCon MC Max Auto Dig excavator 3D GPS system. And this is the machine behind us here today. Look, the SK135 SR machine behind us fits Daniel's purpose quite well here on this site, being that it's a short radius and a compact machine, but still gives that great performance for a larger machine. The Kobelco SK135 SR really is the benchmark in the 14 to 15 tonne short radius class machine. The bucket breakout force is over 105 kilonewtons. It's best in class on slew torque, and also drawbar pull, so your tractable force or tracking power is a massive 141 kilonewtons.
With Dean at Lift Right, it's been fantastic. Answers every phone call if there's an issue or something I want to know about the machine. Having the fuel economy in this machine, it's been quite well. I think it's about 6 litres per hour. For the size of the machine, it's very well. It's a lot better than what we usually have in our machines, so happy with that. We've got about 20 machines in the business at the moment. This is our first Kobelco. It's above probably all of them at the moment that we've got, and hopefully down the path we'll get another one.
Matters arising from that video. Apparently, now I've got to be honest, while that was playing, I was looking over here because I can tell you that it is currently 5:29 and 44 seconds in Australia, because Frank came back to me. But he also said those guys are from the same city, Perth, Western Australia. So he's in Perth, those guys are in Perth. And apparently, I didn't see it, but Andy Dalvell said, what was his name again? Peter McKenna also picked up on it. Bloody hell, 2 Dan Cullens. What the hell, he says. Exactly, says Andy Dalvell. Can the world handle 2 Dan Cullens? Peter says, no. Bloody people call him when they know I'm busy. In that case, Dan, you probably missed the fact that your namesake was just on the screen. He was. We've got one final film for you today, and then it's morning monologue time. We're going to be talking to Takeuchi in just a moment.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Gary Muirhead just said, I'm loading A45s, Volvo A45s at the moment. One was carrying 64 tons yesterday. You know that's a little bit high. You know that's, I think the term for that is overloaded by quite a bit. Dan Cullen says, in this Komatsu, I'm burning 180 litres a day, over 10 hours. Is that good or is that bad? I don't know. Andy Dalvell, good load that. Not entirely sure the people in charge of the warranty would necessarily agree with that. And Dan says, I'm famous worldwide. Well, famous or infamous, you take your pick. As I say, we've got one final film for you. Have you ever felt stumped? Have you ever felt stumped? Next time you do, call Takeuchi.
My name's Alex White, and I own North End Stump and Brush Recycling out of Weaverville, North Carolina. My dad started it back in 07, 08. He owned some dump trucks, and he got to where he would just take the brush back to the property we were building. He'd take brush back to it. We just, about 8 years ago, decided to buy the Bullet and take this on. When Hurricane Helene come through, we woke up that morning and wind was ripping. It was pretty wild. We had a bunch of trees down around our place, and it was just crazy, the destruction that we'd seen. Once we found out we were good, my family was good, that's when we went out and started helping cut people out and get debris cleared from the road and stuff like that. We're pretty sure they had a tornado come through here because all the trees, if you look, are all just blowed over one way, and there's only one thing that can make it do that, and that's just sheer wind force. So we're coming through here, all the trees, they're not completely down, so we're coming in and just taking out all the trees that had just been bent over and left by the storm, and trying to get the view open back for our customers. We're using the 2150, and we're also using the TL10 with the brush grapple. It just makes everything a lot easier having the brush grapple, and the 2150 is the big size, so there's not many trees around here that it can't handle. I like the comfortability that they give. It's a very spacious cab, both skid steer and in the 2150. They're just well-balanced machines. I mean, like this job here, you have a lot of steep grades to go up and down, and you're carrying heavy trees. When it's a balanced machine, it just makes it a lot easier to just tackle the job.
Andy, I'm going to go on to Peter in just a moment because the show just went sideways again. Andy Dalvell says, is there anyone in the world who sounds more American than this guy? Yeehaw. Yeah, North Carolina. Yeah. Andy Dalvell also says, if you can see air in the body, it's not full yet. Full is full. As I say, those in charge of taking care of the warranty may have a different view on that. Now, I said the show is about to go very sideways. Peter McKenna says, why do bald women look amazing? Okay. I kind of guessed because I was on my laptop the other night and my wife had MasterChef on, and there's a lady on there with alopecia, apparently. 3 women with alopecia on this morning, picture in the group for reference. Now, he says that. Let me have a look, see if I can find that for you. There you are. That's the picture that Peter was showing me. The one that I remember, showing my age slightly, does anyone remember there was a bear with me, I'll just dredge it up on the screen here for you. Does anyone remember that lady there? She was in one of the Star Trek movies. I can't remember. Second one, possibly. Not sure which one, but she was that lady there is called Persis Kambata. I think you'll agree. Even with the old baldy head, pretty damn attractive. And I always thought Sinead O'Connor, when Sinead O'Connor had basically zero hair. Beautiful one. Dan Cullen says, I once had 36-ton of muck on a tractor and a 16-ton dump trailer. Peter McKenna, for reasons I don't fully understand, we're enjoying bald women this morning. Who the hell saw that coming? That pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. It also wraps up the week. It also wraps up this style of show, I guess. Show number 999. It all changes on Monday. So for the final time absolutely, Gail Porter. Although I have to say, Gail Porter in her pomp. Remember when they projected Gail Porter onto the side of the House of Commons? Gail Porter, yes, lovely Gail Porter. Anyway, yes, show 1000 on Monday. New look, new style, new pretty much everything. So I hope you're there as well. Sigourney Weaver, she was hot in Aliens. Still pretty hot today, to be perfectly honest with you. It's weird how you kind of change. When I've said this before, when I was 16, I thought 16-year-old girls were really, really, really hot. And when I was 18, I thought 18-year-old girls were really, really hot. Now I'm 60. Helen Mirren, oh yeah. Joanna Lumley, absolutely. Yeah, you You change. Peter says, sorry, Mark, our mate is on a construction site in Manchester. Will probably be featured on this morning's news as the site has a band and a stage there. Large opening this morning. Who 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 would want to go to a large opening? That's a whole other story entirely. Tristan just said, when did Andy Capp take over Demolition News? Tris? Morning, mate. Yes, it is time for the morning monologue. Yes, you need to watch it in context. He's just said, I walked in on this conversation, and as you said, 16-year-old girls are hot. When I was 16. Yeah. Dan says, when I was 16, I loved a 40-year-old woman. Dreamed of such opportunities. If you can't stick around, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very soon. Hopefully for Monday, for the 1000th episode, and all the razzmatazz that's going to go with that. But if you do have the time and inclination, please stick around for the final morning monologue that looks like this. Get a bunch of men in the same room, and sooner or later, the conversation will turn to the all-important matter of sport. Whether they're football, rugby, or cricket fans, they will quickly divide themselves along tribal lines, each vouching for their own sport, or more specifically, their own team. If those men happen to work in the demolition and construction industry, those tribal lines are often drawn between preferred brands of equipment. There'll be the die-hard Caterpillar fans in one corner and the Komatsu fans in another. In each instance, they will believe their choice was the right choice and that their machine is somehow superior. They'll advocate for their preferred brand and for the dealer supplying it with an almost religious fervour. When COVID-19 arrived in the UK back in 2020, there was a mad rush to discover and develop a cure and preventative vaccine. Even while the debate over the necessity for and the efficacy of the vaccine was still raging, we went tribal once again. Which jab did you get? Came the question. Pfizer, you'd respond. Then people would gasp with mock horror and then explain, often in great detail, that you should have insisted on the AstraZeneca. In the 1970s and 1980s, the so-called Cola Wars raged over something as ridiculous as a fizzy drink, with Pepsi and Coca-Cola each fighting for global domination, and the fans of both taking sides. For the record, Coca-Cola is better. It just is. Similar wars rage to this very day in the world of tech. PC versus Mac, Apple versus Android. All of the audio recording gear we now use is made by DJI because I prefer them to Rode. All our camera gear is Canon because my son hates Sony. We've picked a side, a team, a brand, and a tribe. And by God, we're sticking with it. And I've been reminded of this tribalism twice recently. During the recent European Demolition Association study tour across Italy, I found myself embroiled in an unlikely discussion between a group of demolition men, each of them advocating for a different artificial intelligence platform. That really happened. There were a few ChatGPT fans. Someone else put the case for Google's Perplexity. Even though I'm a Mac man these days, I took a stand for Microsoft's Copilot, which I now use pretty much daily. Let me be clear, this was half a dozen demolition men extolling the virtues of their favourite AI platform. Welcome to the modern demolition world. And then yesterday, after my morning live stream, I was discussing with a contributor the relative merits of a bunch of video editing systems. Now, if I'm in a hurry, I use Apple's iMovie. If I've got a bit more time, I'll opt for Video Leap. When my son heard this, he looked at me with derision and said that Motion was better than both of my choices combined. Both of my grandfathers were Millwall supporters, so genetically at least, I should probably have been a Millwall fan too. I was actually born in South London. My nearest team was Chelsea. Geographically, I should have been a regular at Stamford Bridge, but I abandoned both genetics and geography to follow West Ham. I don't know if it was the colour of the kit or the Crossed Hammers badge or the fact that 3 of our players had just won the World Cup. It certainly wasn't the quality of the football, but something clicked. My first ever car was a VW Beetle. I bought it for no other reason than that my dad had one when I was growing up. I was a member of that tribe for a very short space of time until my head was turned by a series of cars that didn't smell like they were on fire. There's something to be said for that genetic link. A lot of companies run JCB machines today because their father did so before them, and their fathers ran them because their fathers did so too. There will also be those that have a specific passion for a make or model because it marked their point of entry into the industry. The first machine I ever drove was a Cat 428. That was 30 years ago, and I still have a Cat 428 to this day. Against that background, it's little wonder that some manufacturers and dealers donate machines to facilities like the National Construction College at Bircham Newton. Catch a young person while they're still learning the ropes, and you could have a paying customer for life. So what is it? Is it the strength of the brand, the quality of the experience, the charisma of the salesman, the speed of the after-sales support? Or is it something else, something indefinable, like when you discover a band that just speaks to you? Just as strange as that tribalism is how it can manifest itself. As a long-time iPhone user, I secretly and quietly look down on anyone with an Android phone. I know digger drivers do precisely the same with equipment brands. If they're sat behind the levers of a Volvo or a Liebherr, you can almost see the pity on their face when someone else pitches up in what they consider to be a lesser brand. And yet, for all of that, people are fickle. There are some who, for one reason or another, switch tribes. They change allegiance. I can think of one demolition company that ran an excavator fleet that was entirely Hitachi. But then they were hit by a double whammy. First, the main salesman at Hitachi left, and that connection was broken. And then Hitachi was struggling with supply. That demolition firm jumped ship to Caterpillar, and they never went back. In truth, they may have done, but sadly they folded before any such decision became necessary. In the end, it doesn't matter whether you're Team Cat, Team Komatsu, Team iPhone, or Team Android. What matters is that you've picked a team at all. Because without tribes, we'd have nothing to argue about over a pint or a morning brew or a Diet Coke. Not a Pepsi, a Diet Coke. There you are. And that was inspired by yesterday's show. And Chris and Jim talking about chatting about nonsense, basically. Let's have a look. Morning, peeps, says Jim, who's just arrived. Sorry I'm late. Been tarmac. You're welcome regardless. Sport blur. I'd rather talk about women trucks or excavators. Well, I thought I included all of those. Let's have a look. I didn't follow my dad's car choices. What the hell is that? A Yugo Zastava was a Russian box on wheels. I remember one of my next door neighbors when I was growing up. His dad bought was it a Moscovich or a Moscovich? A Russian car? That was shit. Oh man alive. I mean, it was boxy. I mean, even a Volvo was less boxy than this. And the weirdest thing about it, I remember, was he got it and look, I have a new car. And it already didn't look like a new car. It was literally straight out of the showroom and onto the drive. Looked like it had been through the wars in Russia. Andy Thornton says, "I'm a Pepsi guy. Can we still make this work?" There's going to be some bridge building required, Andy. I have to say, you probably can't see it. I am the master of the poker face, but I'm currently viewing you with pity and derision at the same time. Pepsi. Dan says, Coke, I can't drink it. It's shit. Yuck. 999 shows. And by talking about a fizzy drink, I'm rapidly alienating the entire viewership. Jim says, I follow my dad's vehicle choice, Land Rover, because I bought it off him. Well, that helps. Dan says, I'm a Purdy's guy. Now, listen. To be clear, I like Purdy's. Dan. Dan. You're in a you're in a largely male industry. You're not. There's nothing you want to share with us, is there? Right now, is there? In fact, thinking about it even further, Dan drinks Purdy's and is a vegetarian. You could lose your man card. You could lose your man card, mate. Coke is better than Pepsi. Peter McKenna, thank you. You're absolutely right. What the hell is Purdy's? Well, it's in like a silver bottle. Tastes lovely. It tastes absolutely fantastic. But it is it's vaguely herbal. I think they try and sell it on the basis that it's herbal. I don't believe it is. I think it largely takes taste of something synthetic, but it is quite nice, I have to say. Dan is vegan. Oh, that's even worse. That's even worse. Peter says he's vegan, not veggie. Actually, I'm stung. I'm stung. Nothing wrong with Pepsi. Less clacky. Clacky. That's a word. Less clacky than Coke, but either have to be the full fat version. See, I have that as a treat. Obviously, being a type 2 diabetic, I can't be doing that all the time. Diet Coke is my favourite. Is my preferred. Well, I say it's my favourite. It's the one I go to. Diet Coke or Coke Zero. But every once in a while, particularly when I'm abroad and you can get it in the bottles and stuff, have a full fat Coke. Oh, that's some good gear right there. That is some good gear right there. Have to say, makes life somewhat difficult though, because obviously they are fizzy, they are gassy. I largely, almost entirely do not drink alcohol. So, designate your driver. So if we go out for dinner or go out with people, I will I would generally go for a Diet Coke. There's only so much of that you can drink before you think, can't face any more of that. Jim says, I'd rather have an iron brew. You got a bit of Scottish in you, have you? Gary says, have a fantastic weekend, guys. You too, Gary. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Purdy's is all genuine and natural ingredients. Is it now? Is it? Peter says, I feel awful eating meat. Beside a vegan, when I took Dan out for dinner, I felt evil, but it was so nice. Yeah, I'm past that. My youngest daughter has been a vegetarian since she was about 6. Just could never get on with meat. So I've grown up with a vegetarian. Did it myself for about 5 years, and then fell off the wagon. No particular desire to go back on the wagon. Andy Thornton says, tribal affiliations often send signal taste like Pepsi, values or social standing, driving a Tesla or supporting Chelsea. If you drive a Tesla, I'm a little bit envious. Peter Haddock, I'm looking at you. I'm a little bit envious because they're a fantastic car. If you support Chelsea, you just have my undying pity. I realise that you always finish the league season above West Ham, but did you do it well? Did you do it in a good way? No, you didn't. Cheating bunch of buggers they are. Iron Brew tastes like nothing, but I like it. Tastes nothing like it used to. Has it changed? Have they changed the recipe? Surely not. Andy Thornton says, evolutionarily, never said that word before, sticks in the throat. Tribes meant survival. Today they offer emotional safety, shared values, mutual support, and validation. What I find interesting about that, and I agree, I am never more of a Londoner. I mean, obviously, I'm sure the accent gives it away. I am from London originally. I'm never more of a Londoner than when I'm at the London Stadium with my fellow West Ham supporters, and there is that connection. But I also like, as I said at the very end of that monologue, I do like the fact that tribalism sets you at odds with others. I like the idea of, I love watching football in the pub where, it might be West Ham fans stood by Arsenal fan and West Ham and Arsenal were playing, and you can give each other a bit of banter. I quite like that. And I've said it. We had it Andy, me and you are going to fall out fairly soon. Where was I going with this? I've lost my train of thought because Andy Thornton put this up on. I won the lottery one year and bought West Ham a new player. If I win another fiver, I'll get them another. You can go off people, you know. Holy is better for you than Purdy's and cheaper, Dan. Are we talking water there? I reckon I must have, as I love shortbread and bagpipes. You love bagpipes? Really? Do you know, I was bought a watch. Early days of digital watches. So I was in high school and I was bought a watch that played this little, like, tinny sort of tune. But I found if I waved my arm around, bizarrely, it sounded like bagpipes. It did. And does anyone remember the band Big Country from the 80s? Scottish in origin, and the guitarist, ex of the Skids, I believe, a guy called Stuart Adamson, sadly no longer with us, spiky-haired fella, really good guitarist, but he could make an electric guitar sound like bagpipes. I don't particularly like bagpipes, but I really like Big Country. Really did. Let's have a look. What else have we got here? I never ever consider myself part of a tribe nowadays. I find tribes groups bring out the worst in most people. Yeah, it can. Although again, you know, we've had that discussion today. You know, what brand of machine would you choose? And I don't think anybody actually chose the same as everybody else. I think there was a few votes for Cat, but there was a JCB, there was a Volvo, there was a Liebherr, and that's what you do, isn't it? That's part of the deal. Energy drinks, Mark. I'm shocked you don't know what Holy Energy is. Pass me by. I don't do energy drinks. I had a very bad experience with Red Bull, which is not entirely true. I had a bad experience with vodka and Red Bull. The vodka made me drunk. The Red Bull kept me awake to fully experience the drunkenness. Not, I wouldn't recommend that. There's somebody over on Instagram called Mr. Big Head Man. Morning. How big is your head? Can you show it to us? Mr. Big Head Man. Purdy's is an energy drink. Is it considered an energy drink? Has it got caffeine in it? I've never thought of that. I've the only time I've ever had Purdy's, which is not very often, is because it tastes quite nice. Never thought of it as an energy drink. I had Fords or major Ford, and same with cars. I want a Ford Mark II. Ford Mark II, Escorts, Capri, Sierra Cosworth. Oh, Sierra Cosworth. That was a dream car back in the 80s, wasn't it? Went like the proverbial shit off a shovel. I love the older vintage cars. Modern cars are complete crap. And they look rubbish. I'm sure we've discussed this before, but I will mention it again. I'm not a petrol head. Never been into cars too. Not even remotely. But I do remember when I was a kid, sort of 70s, 80s, you could, if you saw a car in profile, saw it side on, you could tell, or certainly I could tell precisely what it was. They all had like a distinctive body shape, you know, maybe a distinctive grille, distinctive wheel arches, distinctive one thing or another. And you go, oh, look, that's a Ford Granada, that there, or the Ford Capri. Ford Capri side on looked like no other car at all. Every single car now looks exactly the bleeding same, doesn't it? And even at the top end, you know, you back in the day of the Top Gear when it was good, you know, Jaguar have launched a new car, a new sports car that looks just like the last Aston Martin that was launched. Exactly the same. Where's the individuality? Peter says Purdy's is a caffeine-free energy drink. So does that mean it's just packed with sugar then? Probably does. I love my EV Skoda. Is that called an Enyaq? Is that what it's called? Is he? Somebody's launched a car called an Enyaq? They have. It looks nice in green. There's a car called an Enyaq. Sounds like an anagram for something that I can't actually imagine. all buttons and no looks. Andy Darvell says, I stay away from any energy drinks. I drink tea, coffee, water, and Guinness. In that order? In that order? Probably not. Anybody else fancy a pint of Guinness now? And yes, it is called an Enyaq. Wonder what that means. And he's not green, it's Arctic silver. There is a green one though, which I'm fairly sure I just had it up. Let's have a look. Just talk amongst yourselves. We've gone slightly sideways on the imagery here. There we are. I can show it to you. Let's get Peter out of the way. Let's get rid of Percy's Cambata and her bald head, and let me show you this instead. Share screen. There we are. The Enyaq. There you are. Get rid of that. That's the Skoda Enyaq RS-IV, whatever one of those is. Like the colour. I know nothing about the car. I didn't even know it existed as a car, but now I do. People, that is it. That is the end of the show. That is the end of the show as it stands. That is the end of the week. I'm going to go back to this very quickly. No, it looks green, and it was Skoda's most popular colours. Now has been discontinued. It's Arctic silver now, apparently. I'll keep an eye on that. Jim Turner says, yes, a Guinness with a massive fry up and a pot of tea. A pot of tea mashing. I know what mashing is. It's brewing down here. Yes, a massive fry up and a pot of tea mashing for after the Guinness has gone. I'm not sure I could go from Guinness to tea. I feel like I'd go the other way. Tea first, then Guinness. Looking forward to Monday. Up the hammers. It's going to be a bad weekend with Spurs. It's not going to be good. Have a fabulous weekend, lads. Looking forward to Monday, as am I. Guinness and JD was my go-to when I was drinking. JD used to be my drink. That was me at my low ebb. When I discovered the joys, I say joys of Jack Daniels, that was when people started to take me to one side and say, are you sure you want another one? It won't end well. And it didn't. Peter says, have a good weekend, folks. Dan says, stay safe, lads, and be in one piece. Yes, do be in one piece, because I want as many people here on Monday as we can possibly get for our 1000th show. Till then, everybody, have a fantastic weekend. Andy Thornton is going to go and have a long, cool Pepsi. Peter says, I've always been a rum man, but JD was second best. Jim says, I generally only drink spirits straight. Yeah, I was a Jack Daniels and ice was my poison. Can't wait till Monday, says Dan. Me either. So should we call it a day? And I'll see you again on Monday when you get to see the grand unveiling. And please be paying attention on Monday, because I do need to get some of these prizes out of my office, because frankly, I can't move. I'll see you all again on Monday. Have a good week.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.